as some of you know in the audience, it's my hobby to pick up answers to the aptitude sections of some of the evaluation tests like Minnesota Monophasic and the others. And I don't have to tell you, I guess, that at a time when we need young leadership in our business, more and more, a lot of the kids are turning off industry in general and selling in particular. So maybe we have to go to them in kind of a stewardship role. Maybe we have to go to them and say, look, selling at its best is beautiful. It's sharing, it's helping, it's caring, and you don't have to go into teaching. You don't have to go into the Peace Corps. Come with us, and we'll show you how to grow while you're helping others grow. Well, anyway, some of the answers I've picked up lately, and cross my heart and hope to die, these are legitimate. Under age, one kid put down nuclear. Under race, human. Maybe trying to tell us something. Church preference, brick colonial with white trim. Salary desired, yes. Marital status, shaky. How far did you go to school? 6 blocks. That's nice. This is sweet. Mother's name, Mom. Born, cesarean section. I think that's good. You know, I'm delighted that the gals are here. The audience is always better when the ladies are in attendance. I sometimes make the statement that given the same set of circumstances, women would outsell men. You know, if everything else was the same, women would outsell men. The reason I give is because women have a way of showing their feelings more than we do. You see, we've been conditioned since early childhood that big boys don't cry. It's not masculine to cry. The kid falls down the cellar stairs, we say, big boys don't cry. It's a psychological fact. If we let him cry, he'd feel better, and maybe a biological fact that if he cried, he might heal faster, but big boys don't cry. Did you ever see a cowboy cry? John Wayne doesn't cry. What's your name? Tex. Where you from? Louisiana. Well, if you're from Louisiana, how come they call you Tex? Well, you wouldn't want them to call me Louise, would you? You gotta be a real cool cat, you see, in our society. So I'm glad the ladies are here. Some speakers say taking your wife to a convention is like going fishing with the game warden, you know, said even if you catch something good, you gotta throw it back, you know. Well, women cry, and they outlive us by 7 years. Did you ever think of that? They outlive us. They have this emotional exhaust valve. We keep it in here, and the belly has a way of keeping score when we keep it in here. And women outlive us by 7 years. Somebody said because they don't have to live with women. That's right. You know, when we start talking about feeling in our relationships, invariably somebody will come up and say, well, Bill, no, watch your step. This feeling thing kind of brings me uptight because, well, it's just not my style to show my feeling in a relationship. I love my wife very much. I love her dearly, but it's hard for me to go to her and say, I love you. I don't do this well. I don't show my feelings. This is my style. I can't change. Took my son to the airport the other night. He'll say, going into the Marines. I don't know what's going to happen to him. I want to go to him and hug him and tell him I love him and come back safely. I feel like doing this, but I let her do it. She does it very well. Well, nothing I'm going to say, my friends, in the next few minutes will make it easier for you to say to your wife, I love you. But anytime you get people together in leadership positions and you don't talk about the importance of feeling in all our relationships, then you're not saying all that should be said, because you see, all motivation starts with feeling. It starts from here, not from here. We eat when we feel hungry. We sleep when we feel tired. We yell out when we feel pain. And in a seller-buyer relationship or parent-child relationship, I'm not terribly concerned with what you say. I got to know how you feel. I've got to know how you feel. I'll go to my grave, let me repeat, believing that the only way I can find out how you feel is not to be afraid to show mine. I think this is the reason why professional people and laymen alike are questioning the effectiveness of psychoanalysis. Psychotherapy, that's where you have the patient on the couch. The doctor is in a non-judgmental role. He can't say, "You dreamt what? Why, you dirty old man." Can't say that. Not allowed. He uses what they call a reward or reinforcement technique. I don't know which one it is. It could be both. But the patient says something that might be a clue to his hang-up, and the doctor says, "Well, isn't that interesting? Well, for heaven's sakes, tell me more. Give me an example." Well, a thought that occurred to me is, you can do this with a dolphin. You know, here's a fish, sweetie. Jump through the hoop. Be a nice girl. And some weeks ago, I was on a program with a psychiatrist, shared the platform with a psychiatrist friend of mine, and in my turn at bat, I made the point that I thought was valid when I said that I'd never heard of a psychiatrist helping someone with a drinking problem. And I had never heard of a psychiatrist helping someone with a drug problem. I've heard of a lot of drunks helping other drunks. I've heard of a lot of junkies helping other junkies. Could it be, I said, that all behavior changes in behavior starts in your gut? Could it be that I said that only an alcoholic can know how another alcoholic really feels? Only a junkie can know how another junkie really feels. On the plane trip home, my psychiatrist friend and I had a little confrontation. He said, "I'd like to get you on the couch, baby. You know, guy makes 100 speeches a year. He's got to have a big ego to feed." And I said, "Well, I'll make a deal with you. I'll go on the couch with you, Doc, only on my terms. I'll share my dreams with you, but you better be able to share your dreams with me. I ain't taking this trip alone, baby. I'll dump my bucket for you. You dump your bucket for me." Well, he said, "We can't do that. You see, the psychiatrist got to practice a kind of disciplined detachment. We can't get involved." When we left, got out of the cab, he said, "You still need help, Bill Baby." Well, let me tell you about him, my psychiatrist friend. Here's a guy 55 pounds overweight, wears a wig, carries an umbrella with him wherever he goes, rain or shine. At home, he's got a St. Bernard dog, 3 cats, a parakeet. He's 58 years old, lives with his mother, he's single, and he's going to help me. Now, that's kind of nutty, I think. Well, now, what does this have to do with our job? What does this have to do with selling? Well, only this. It's occurred to me that in every seller-buyer relationship, there are 2 problems involved. The problem that has to do with the product, service, and the problem that has to do with the relationship between 2 people. I think too many times we emphasize the product problem and neglect the relationship problem, or maybe worse still, we can neglect the relationship problem, or we can emphasize the relationship problem and forget the product problem. I mean, we can try to get along with just our personality and our charm. Now, at the Wilson Learning Center, they make a distinction between the 2, and to simplify it, they make a list of when you're building a sales presentation, they make a list of words, feel words, and fact words. And the feel words are lovely, makes you feel good to talk about them. These are words like, "I know how you feel. Others have felt the same way. But after they did this, they found." You all remember this, feel, felt, and found. They use words like, to answer an objection, they use words like, "You must have a pretty good reason for feeling this way. Would you mind telling me what it is?" They use words like, "Here's how I feel. How do you feel?" They use words like, when you buy from my company, you get me as part of the package. These are gut words. These come from down here. Sure, you have to have a reservoir of fact words. Well, if you get hit by a truck, Mr. Cronish, you get this. Now, your wife gets this. Now, if you get hit by a herd of buffalo, Mama gets this. If there's a buffalo driving the car at the time, double indemnity. Now, if you outsmart us and live to be 65, you get this. And if you lose your arm, we'll help you find it. That's the kind of an outfit. This new product will warm the cockles of your heart. Matter of fact, it's a cockle warmer. That's what it is. And these are fact words. John Sebastian used these liver pills for 59 and a half years. 10 days ago, he died at the age of 111. You're not going to believe this, Mr. Smith, but yesterday we had to beat his liver to death with a broom. These are fact words. I think to make a distinction between the two problems involved on a sales call, between the product problem and the relationship problem, and at least give each one equal time, makes a lot of sense. Last time in Denver, I spoke to the funeral directors. That's a kind of a racy group. They talk about layaway plans, and you go this month, we got a special. Charlie, you go this month, you can take a friend with you. And they always have a panel on how to look sad at a $10,000 funeral, But they always tell a story that I think has got some moral muscle to it. Is in all my relationships with these people, I've never heard one of them refer to one of his contemporaries in terms of his job skills, his job problems. If you were referring to someone, if you were recommending a funeral director, you wouldn't say, this guy's a hell of an embalmer. He does hem stitching, and you like his work. The words feel words, to be able to make a distinction, to solve two separate problems. To solve the product problem, okay. To solve the relationship problem, you see, the highest form of communication is when two guts start talking to each other. Because guts don't lie. Guts don't try to impress anybody. Guts tell it the way it is. You get me with the package. Lovely. Feeling. Love words, if you mean it. How many automobile dealers do we have in the audience? I've been shopping some for one of my clients, and it's pretty wild. When I walk in, you see, they don't know who I am. And the first thing they usually say is, what are you driving? Because everything, of course, is predicated and turned in if you're out of the car. It's a different marketing concept altogether. And they say, what are you driving? I always say, 1933 Essex. Now, you'd think this would stop the guy, right? He says, yeah, but what color? I say, burnt orange. You know what he says? We're in luck. And I say, how come we're in luck? He says, we're in luck because just yesterday there was a guy in here, a little short guy with a beard, looking for a 1933 burnt orange Essex, and because we can move it right out, we're in a beautiful position to deal with you today. Then they have a religious exercise called the laying on of the hand. Now it's you and I against the house, baby. Got to talk with my boss. Very mean man. Matter of fact, if I ever have a heart transplant, I want his. Not because I want him to die, but here's a dude that's got a heart that's never been used. He's a mean man. He had all the salesmen over to his house the other night for a beer party, and he locked the bathroom door. That's pretty mean. Well, does it have to be this way? Hank Kindler in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, sells more cars by mistake, I think, than anybody in that part of the country sells on purpose, and it's a different story with him when people come in. He says it might cost you a little extra to do business here. Come on, I want to show you what you get for it. And he takes him out back and shows him all his latest equipment. He's got a baby, blue-eyed service manager that looks up at him and says, and when you bring your car back here, we treat it just like it's our own. And then I think that Hank Kindler says it for everyone in this room and every salesman, wherever you are, in the closing room when he says, if this isn't worth the extra, then maybe you ought to buy from someone else, because you see, when you buy from Kindler, you have to take Hank Kindler with the package. I go with the deal. You realtors out there, when is the last time when someone said to you, why should I do business? Why should I list with your organization? When is the last time you said and meant, because you get me with the package? And if I couldn't make the difference, I wouldn't even stay in business. But if you don't think I can make the difference, try me. I play golf in the summer with a guy 77 years old. Fantastic guy. 2 or 3 times a year he shoots his age. This will mean something to you golfers. Never married. Always been a bachelor. And he's got this bachelor's look in his eye like he knows something. And he ain't about to tell you what it is that he knows. He said people don't buy from me necessarily because they love me. I've outlived 2 or 3 buyers every place I call. They don't buy from me because of my product. Steel is steel. Price, we're higher than most. I just have to believe they buy from me because I let them know that I know how they feel. I've never written or never read many books on selling. I've read a lot of books on buying, on purchasing. They know that I know how they feel. Just one little idea. I love those words. If you remember these words and forget everything else I've said, I know how you feel. One of my clients, an airline, is doing a thing where their passenger personnel going to wear a badge that says, "We know how you feel. We travel too." Nurses ought to wear a badge that reads, "I know how you feel. I once spent 2 weeks in a hospital." Teachers maybe, "I know how you feel, student, because I was once where you are. I know how you feel." The lovely, gutty, beautiful words, "I know how you feel." And when you buy from this organization, you have to take me in the package. And the time we spent together, these are the 2 ideas that I would share. My boy, I'm very proud of Billy Jr., who incidentally is going into selling. And this is what I tell him when he asks me, "Daddy, how do you feel now about your 40 years in the business?" How many here? Let me leave you with just this one thought. If anybody, and I mean anybody, friend, family, associate, tries to take away from you your spontaneity and your uniqueness, when you see him coming, walk across the street. Don't have anything to do with them, because this is all you have, your spontaneity and your uniqueness. It makes you you, and you're beautiful. Thanks for listening to me.
You're looking at a horseshoe nail. I'm Hal Krause, and I'm sure most of you have heard the old illustration. For one of a nail, the shoe was lost. For one of a shoe, the horse was lost. For one of a horse, the rider was lost. And for one of a rider, the battle was lost. Now, ironically, what was true in warfare so many years ago is also true in business today. And that is that little things can often make a big difference. In most selling or business situations, there's a great deal of time, expense, and effort that's behind you before you have that first chance to make the big presentation. And you can't afford to let something go wrong. Napoleon once said, "Circumstances, I make my circumstances."
Well, Hal Krause certainly has put us in the proper profile. That presentation is terribly important. Great investment in your time, great investment in product development, great investment in looking over your product or service and making sure that the presentation time is right on at the right place. And then it is just that little difference. I love that Napoleon quote, "Circumstances, I make my circumstances." They tell the story of Charles Lawton. Charles Lawton, probably as great an actor as any in his time, great on stage, on television and movies, great in any role, always on, always an impressive man in his presentations. Charles Lawton is reported to have made a tour in the great theaters and gathering places around the country, and perhaps around the globe for that matter. And he was reading the Bible, and doing very well, getting great reviews from all the reviewers. And on one particular day, when Charles Lawton had been very effective in what he was doing, a man without the great presence and without the great voice and without the great experience that Charles Lawton had on the stage stood from the rear of the audience and said he'd like to read the Bible for the crowd assembled. He came to the front of the room, stepped on the stage, and he too read from the Bible that day. And had there been judges, had there been someone there to decide who did the better job, they would have voted from the man who stepped from the rear of the room. Charles Lawton was queried about that later. He said, yes, had there been judges, that gentleman would have won a contest. He read the Bible better than I that day. And someone said, why? He said, well, I knew the material. He knew the author. It's a good story, isn't it? And I believe it has a direct bearing on presentations that win. I think there's a need for knowledge of the product. I think there's a need for the sincerity. I like that line, as you judge me, judge my product. As you judge my product, judge me. That's sincerity. That's knowledge of the product. Now, I've been investigating this whole thing of presentations that win, visiting with some of the greatest salesmen in the world, and I believe that winning edge is as simple as several different points of control. I want you to pay special attention to this. I think the guy who has a presentation that wins more often is the guy that takes control of first the physical arrangements. As simple as the presentation setting. If, for instance, there's a couch and a chair, just where should the presenter present himself and where should the prospect be seated? Well, very simply, if you are, for instance, in your office or in the home of a prospect, you're talking to a husband and wife or a multiple number of people, put the two of them or the several of them on the couch and you remain on the chair. Now, can you think why that might be the better way to position yourself? Well, it focuses all the attention, number one, on you. It gives you the attention of all as they respond to you. The second thing it does, it keeps those who are to be given the entire story from distracting each other when they are listening to your presentation. For instance, let's put you in the wrong place. Let's put you on the couch, in the center of the couch, and one of them on either side. If you begin to play ping pong or tennis, you see, while you're doing so, they can, when you can't see their communications, whether it's verbal or nonverbal, distract the other party. So in order for you to tell the whole story, it's important for you to control the physical arrangements. If, for instance, you're at a prospect's desk, such as we are sitting right here, if you were going to go through your presentation manual, then it is important for you to sit next to that person or without the desk being between you. On the other hand, if that person feels comfortable in his or her office and feels the comfort of the desk between them, you want good eye contact in that presentation, controlling the environment, then you sit across from them in the desk, on the desk, that is. There are lots of ways you can do that, and I suggest to you that you would explore perhaps the setting prior to the presentation. Be sure that you have positioned yourself so that you get total attention in controlling the environment or controlling the physical arrangements. The second area of control, I would say, would be if you're going to make that presentation that wins more times than not, is that you also control the distractions. I would suggest even a list of what the distractions might be in one particular setting. If you're in the home, perhaps you want to check on the radio and television playing in the background. And if the radio and television are playing in the background, you might want to say something to your prospect like this. What we have to discuss today is very important. Now, to do my best job in presenting the facts, I want to be on my toes. You know, I'm very easily distracted, so I wonder if you'd object to my turning off the set. It's as simple as that. And that's called control. Telephone. In your office, of course, it's easy for you to say, Miss Jones, would you please hold all the calls for the next 15 or 20 minutes? Or you might say to the secretary in the office in which you're making your call, you know, the next 15 minutes are very important to me, but in all honesty, I think they're just as important or perhaps even more important to you. I wonder if you would participate with us and hold the calls unless there's a real emergency. 9 times out of 10, that'll do the job. You ever made a presentation and there was distracting light? Something as simple as simply adjusting the Venetian blind so that there isn't an overflow of light, or perhaps someone is sitting against a window, making eye contact very difficult. In the presentation that wins, it's those little distractions that you control that make the difference. Children? Oh, sometimes you can't control that when you're in their home, but you could bring with you perhaps a toy or a game to give to the youngster, or perhaps they stay here in the office and you could go to the conference room and make your presentation. Couldn't hurt a thing in the office. Be wonderful to have them enjoy themselves. Or how about the playground right down the street, where the youngsters can really enjoy themselves while you are presenting your product or service without distraction. Little things like too much heating, too much air conditioning. They can either go to sleep on you or you can lose their attention. Now, one of the greatest selling jobs done by American or European or Asian salesmen, and it's true all over the world, are the people who sell those lovely sunglasses. You know, they really do make you look better. They're very attractive. They've been made scientifically to be attractive to other people, but not, let me repeat that, not in a selling situation. Ironclad rule: if you're going to make a presentation that wins, more times than not, take the dark glasses off when you turn the presentation on. That's simply eliminating the distractions. Point number 3. The salesman who presents that winning edge controls by building suspense. I'll give you several simple examples. Of course, they tell that funny story about the guy who's right on the time zone between Eastern and Central, or whatever the time zones happen to be where you are, and he goes to the bus station, asks about the departure time of a bus for a particular destination. He said, well, it leaves at 11. He said, well, what time does it get there? Well, it arrives at 10:58. Would you like to have a ticket? He said, no, but I want to watch that dude take off. See, there is a suspenseful, until you recognize what the situation is, a suspenseful presentation. In a circus, you hear the drum roll and perhaps the sound of a trumpet or a bugle. And the man says, ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. And there's something magic, electric, that rides on that sound. And then the great lights from somewhere begin to play about the audience. And if it's a 3-ring circus, the lights begin to center suddenly on the middle of the rings, and the light is a huge circle, and then it begins to diminish until it's pencil small. A dramatic, suspense-building presentation. What can you do with your product or service that builds suspense? Even the jeweler, in making his presentation of the jewels, first spreads the black cloth, and the oaken table shows on either side of the cloth, and then come out the sparkling jewels. The automobile salesman. He said, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, you've probably seen on radio and television, or seen in the magazines, the ads of this magnificent Zort automobile, but matter of fact, even some of your friends probably have one. You've seen them on the streets of our town. But you know, until you have actually experienced this magnificent machine, you haven't really lived. What a magnificent piece of development. Now, we've made arrangements for you to try this automobile, and I'm going to allow you to get inside, feel it, touch it, smell it, and experience it right this very minute. Build suspense into your presentation. What else does a professional do in presentations that win? Listen carefully. Point 4. He or she takes time to do it right. They take time to make the presentation in a logical, sequential way, taking the proper amount of time. Why is it we never have time to do it right, but, you finish the line with me, we always have time to do it over? You know the mark of a loser in making his presentations? He rushes. He must be thinking of something else that's more important than the presentation, or the presentation he's to make this afternoon, or later in the day, or later in the week, or perhaps some other activity that has his concentration and thinking. And then inevitably one of two things happens. One, he ultimately takes more time than he would have otherwise if he had not rushed. Or two, he will blow the sale. Earmark of a loser. Now, let's look a little further in that presentation that wins. There is a right way and a wrong way. We both know that. But the professional knows that there is a right way and a right way. Now, let me review that again. He, first of all, takes time to do it right, logically and sequentially. And secondly, he always tells them exactly what it means. Now, you've made your presentation so many times that you may be even bored with the facts about your product or service, no matter how much you respect it, no matter how much you believe in it, no matter how much you want the other party to experience it. But do you remember the first time you were exposed to that product? If it was presented to you right, there was an enthusiasm, a fire, an energy, a belief in the product. And you remember the first time you made that sale or made that presentation before the sale? Remember how important it was for you to do it right? Well, the pro knows it's just that important every time. And if you present it logically, sequentially, using the proper amount of time, the person with whom you are talking will be equally as excited with as much enthusiasm as you had when you first saw the presentation. You have a responsibility as a professional to first of all tell them the facts, the benefits, Mr. or Mrs. Salesman, and to tell them what it means. Let me give you an example of that. A couple from the Midwest, say Kansas, comes to just outside the Big Apple, New York City, and they're to live in northern New Jersey in a commuter town just outside New York. They're looking at a house, and the salesman's had a magnificent day with them. The real estate professional has presented the house and the location, and they've liked all the arrangements, and the three of them have headed back to the real estate office. They sit down. All the buying signals have been checked off. They're ready to agree on the arrangements. And finally, the salesman says, "There's another important fact I think you need to know. That house is less than half a block from the train station." Well, suddenly the atmosphere grew cold. The sale was not consummated. The couple left the office, and the salesman was puzzled. Now, maybe you've already captured the facts. But a couple of weeks later, the salesman met the couple, asked them why they didn't buy. The gentleman replied thusly. He said, "You know, we were ready to buy. We were excited about the house. We liked the house and all of the property, until you said in your office that we were only a half block from the train station." He said, "You see, I didn't realize you were talking about the underground. I didn't realize you were talking about a train you couldn't hear or see. You see, we come from Kansas, and nobody ever buys a house a half block from the train station. Why, they'll keep you up all night long, shifting and whistles blowing." So you see, the one thing that real estate professional failed to do was he gave them the benefit, knowing that it enhanced the value by thousands of dollars in the actual neighborhood, but not saying three simple words that would have allowed him to totally communicate a professional message. What he should have said, after giving the benefit, he should have said, "Now, what that means," and then explain what that means. Benefit, what that means. Benefit, what that means. When you're making your presentation that wins, be sure you control it by doing it the right way and the right way. Our fifth point in presentations that win, many salespeople don't realize that presenting the price is part of the presentation. Now, very briefly, let me explain that there are two ways to present the price. Now, I don't know the kind of business you're in. I don't know the exact method that might be best for your particular presentation, but you should make a decision on whether or not to present the price first and then the value, or the value first and then the price. Either works well. Just be sure you present the value greater than the price. "Sir, it is this price," and then begin to build your value. Or present the beauty of the product, the presentation with suspense, building suspense in the presentation, and then the price. You see, value, 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 price. Just don't get caught with a price in the middle. One other idea in the presentation of the price. If you're the dramatic salesperson, and I incidentally love to watch people who have that little extra shock appeal in their presentations, though it's not necessary to be a professional. You might have a product that costs $1,000. You might, after presenting all the facts in the presentation, say, "Well, I'm sure you'll agree with me that it's a great buy at $2,000. And then you watch their eyes and their faces. And then you say, "However," or "but, our production has been so efficient, and we've been producing this model in such a way that we can offer it to you for $995. And if you've made the presentation properly, sequentially, time-wise, then chances are you'll complete the presentation and go on to the close. The sixth point that I want to make in presentations that win, I believe great professional salespeople work their contract right into the presentation. Their order form, if it's a simple little order form that doesn't look like an order form, they take a big rubber stamp. Go to the local firm that makes rubber stamps. Just have order form in red printed on it and stamp it right on the unit. And then what you do is you use that order form the whole time that you are making your presentation. You put all kinds of notes on the thing. You write telephone numbers, all kinds of little notations to yourself. You feel comfortable with the order form. Your customer feels comfortable with the order form. And of course, after you've presented your product or service logically, sequentially, in the right amount of time, made your proper price and value presentation, then you actually talk them through the order process. You just show them the order form, which they've been very comfortable with, and you say your name and address goes here, and your address is, of course, very important, so our deliveries are right on time to the right place. A little information for the credit department right here. Take your order and all the detail right about here, and we give you the discounts that our company is offering today. And then, of course, this certainly doesn't become official until you add your autograph right here at the bottom of the page. Now, let's review again that slight edge that the winner has in presentations that win. 1, take control. There's the key word, control of the physical arrangements. Secondly, another item of control, eliminate the distractions. 3, control the presentation by building suspense. 4, take the time to present it right. 5, present the price either before or after the value and never in the middle. 6, work the contract or order form into your presentation. If you'll follow these 6 points, you'll make a professional presentation. And a professional salesperson who follows these 6 points time after time, learning to control the situation, will make more presentations that win.